Okay, well, my editing skills are crap, but can the same thing be said about Tolkien? Tolkien? Am I saying that right? Stick around and find out. Bwom, bum, bwom, ba, ba, bwom. Ba, 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 bum, bum, dum, bum, jaga, dum, baga, dum, dinga, wow, dinga, wow. Hey, I'm Peter Franson from christiangeekcentral.com and Spirit Blade Productions. This is my uncut review of Tolkien. The synopsis on IMDb reads, Tolkien explores the formative years of the orphaned author as he finds friendship, love, and artistic inspiration among a group of fellow outcasts at school. That, the synopses, is that the plural of synopsis, that I read on IMDb, every once in a while they'll contain some things that I'm like, oh, is that what you were going for? And this is a pretty good synopsis, but that bit about fellow outcasts, you know, if they were going for a Dead Poet Society type of thing, because I think that involved kind of a group that were kind of outcasts or misfits or something. I didn't get that vibe as much with this group, that they were all weird. I guess they were all kind of artistic and, you know, and they were pursuing education and career paths that were maybe not artistic, but I don't know. Let me talk about the story and just the general tone and what this animal is from a script point of view. I would describe it as a non-linear drama with brief war sequences where the war is the primary setting. Even though they spend the vast minority of the time on the war sequences, that's like the prime time setting that we're in, and then we jump back to these extended flashbacks that are the main content of each act, that are taking us through Tolkien's childhood and early university years. This movie, I think, has a three-way divided focus between the thread of developing his friendship with three other young men his age, the second thread being a romance with a girl that he grew up with, and the third being highlighting his inspirations for various elements of his future fantasy novels as he kind of struggles to figure out what's going to be his education and career path. I wish the focus really wouldn't have been so divided. You know, it's almost like you could tell, do three different movies here, or maybe like one that would just really focus in on two of those three threads. I think it would have been a better experience for me if it would have done that. You know, if it would have focused more on, say, his individual friendships. You know, it developed his friendship with as a group with this group of guys, but there wasn't a lot of focus on his individual friendships with each of these other guys in the group. You know, he would have beats and little moments, but there weren't really many heart-to-heart moments. There was maybe one I can think of with the friend that he seemed to be closest with, but I would have liked just to pour more deeply into those scenes, those relationships, and how they helped Tolkien and sustained him in life. You know, what they really meant for him. They did some of that. I'm not saying they didn't do that. They definitely did some of that. I just wish they would have given more time to that so I could have felt that part of the story more. Or they could have gone more in on the romance, which I don't know if the romance here, what we saw of it, is all that dramatic and sweeping enough to kind of be the main focus of the movie. I do think that the two actors did a nice job. I'll get to that later. And I felt like the scenes they had developing their romance were good. But if they could have given me more about why are these guys a good couple, you know, why should I root for these guys these kids, whatever you want to call them, to be together, you know. And then thirdly, I think this is more what maybe people are wanting to come to this movie for, is his struggles to find his purpose in the educational path he should take and the career that he should have, writing, all that kind of stuff, paired with ongoing inspirations that he encounters for what would be his future works. I think being a Tolkien fan will not only help you get more out of this movie, in some ways, I get the feeling like they are banking on you. They're expecting viewers of this to know Tolkien's work, at least the Lord of the Rings novels and or movies. With no knowledge of the Lord of the Rings books or movies, this one would have felt really weird to me. I've been like, why is he like tripping out and seeing dragons and, ghostly riders on horses in the middle of these war sequences? What the crap is this about? That would have felt really weird and random to me. So anyway, I do think if you're a Tolkien fan that you'll probably get more out of this experience in direct relationship to how much of a fan you are. As far as the cast goes, I thought that the performances were all solid. I don't have any complaints. In fact, I credit the performances with the moments where I felt most moved by what was going on, given that the script felt divided. When they did have moments to focus on these different relationships, friendships, or the romance and stuff, I really felt like it was the performances that helped me invest more than I probably otherwise would have. As far as the visuals go, even though this is not a quote-unquote fantasy movie, it's got a lot of fantasy visuals going on because as Tolkien is running into things in life that would later, especially as it relates to his experiences in war, things that would later inspire elements of his Lord of the Rings trilogy, they represent that by kind of interpreting his imagination, showing us what he's imagining by bringing a bunch of visual effects into it, putting dragons in the scene, or maybe even a Balrog. I'm not sure if that's what that one thing was supposed to be. It was shrouded in smoke, as the Balrog in the movie was. What I wish they would have done, that I think could have really improved the experience, maybe for a lot of audience members too, that maybe are just fans of the movies and not the books. I wish they would have partnered with New Line Cinema, who I believe were the distributors of the Lord of the Rings trilogy, so that they could use the exact same designs, the production designs of like the ring wraiths and the Balrog and the dragon from the Hobbit movies, so that the references could have been much more obvious. And the cool side effect would have been that this could have been this really cool kind of non-fiction extension of those movies that many people have seen and enjoyed. As it was, I wasn't always super clear on what elements of the Lord of the Rings trilogy that the visuals were referring to. Like I said, there was a big fiery monster at one point, shrouded in smoke. I was like, is that supposed to make me think of the Balrog, or is this just a giant, fiery, smoky monster? I mean, anyway. So as far as themes, is there anything of moral, philosophical, or spiritual significance going on in the themes of this movie that might trigger some worthwhile thought or conversation? Not really for me. And I think that, again, is the result of them not focusing as much as I would have liked them to on one of those three branches. There is a nice model of friendship, I feel like a lot we in Hollywood we're dealing with romances, and when we do have deep relationships between two men, it very often goes in a homosexual direction. And in fact, I even wonder if they were trying to imply something at one point, or maybe I was just reading too much into it. But there's one friendship there that in different scenes, my wife and I both thought, is that supposed to? I don't know, and so they didn't commit. If they were going for that, they didn't commit strongly enough to it to make that really clear to me. But anyway, I think there's potentially a good model of friendships, like brotherly friendships between men. And I think that in our oversexed culture today, that is not, those kinds of brotherly relationships are really neglected because it tends to be all about sexual relationships. The deeper people get, the more it becomes about sex at some point in movies. And to have these really close friendships, brotherly relationships, is a neat thing to kind of focus on. And so I just wish they would have focused on it more. I didn't feel like they did enough for me to really come away with it, a significant imprint of that on me, or maybe there could be a theme about courageously seizing the day. These friends have this kind of phrase in another language, I don't know if it's Latin, I can't remember now, that basically amounts to, don't fear death, and just, courageously pursue your desires in life, without fearing death, and so I guess maybe but that really didn't come across as a theme so much as a characteristic of these, of the boys, the men in this group. So, again, not enough focus for me to see any significant themes or messaging or stimulate anything reflective, that I think would be useful. So I have no idea what your tastes are in movies, but if I were a time traveler, I'd go back in time and say, Pater, sad to say, skip this one. Even as like a potential meet you halfway date movie with your wife, who's not necessarily going to be into watching every fantasy movie there is, but there's some romance in here for her. Well, you like romance too, so. But even as like that kind of like potential hybrid geek slash date movie, it doesn't kind of stand up with some of the others, like Somewhere in Time or Time Traveler's Wife. Boy, there's a lot of like time travel romance movies. Anyway, so pay to watch it if it comes to a streaming service you already pay for, or if it makes its way to like Vudu or something like that, that's a free streaming service online. But you're still going to be wanting to play a game or watching or doing something else, rather than giving this your full attention. That said, it will have some brief emotionally moving moments for you that you'll get something out of, and it'll leave you with an itch for watching the Lord of the Rings movies or maybe playing some Lord of the Rings inspired video games. So it has that going for it. It's rated PG-13 for some sequences of war violence. All right, let's see. Let's go for like a marching band vibe now. Right now, I'd like to take some time to write a tune for pre-made rhyme. The lyrics kind of never change, but the melody gets rearranged. I'll never know what I'll create to say how much I appreciate barbells and joysticks, Libre and Stefan Kremik. Thank you for supporting me. I kind of lost sense of like where I thought about doing like a key change there, like a weird. Anyway, it was almost working in my head, but I couldn't keep up. Dang it. And SBP and CGC. And now, to all who hear this tune, thank you as well. Please come back soon. Wanna hear your name in song. Check out our page on Patreon. 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 All right. Those are my thoughts. I'd love to get yours in the comments below. Please like, share, subscribe, click that notification bell. Anything you want to do to share this content with others, I'd greatly appreciate. And then I hope you'll join us over at christiangeekcentral.com as we continue to geek out and seek the truth.